The signal came on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Dr. Sarah Chen was reviewing data from the Deep Space Array when she noticed the anomaly, a repeating pattern that couldn't be natural. Within hours, observatories worldwide confirmed her discovery. Humanity was no longer alone. But this wasn't the harmonious first contact humanity had dreamed of. The signal was a declaration, or more accurately, a demand. The Caraxian Empire, having conquered 1,000 worlds, had finally turned their attention to Earth. Their message was simple: surrender or be destroyed. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from every nation gathered to face what could be humanity's final hours. The Caraxians' terms were clear. Earth would become their newest colony, its resources and population at their disposal. General Marcus Thompson, newly appointed head of Earth's Combined Defense Force, stood before the assembly. His weathered face showed no fear as he addressed the gathered leaders. "They expect us to roll over," he said, his voice steady. "They've conquered primitive worlds and advanced civilizations alike, but they've never met humans before." The assembly erupted in murmurs. Some called for immediate surrender, hoping to spare Earth from destruction. Others demanded aggressive action, despite humanity's technological disadvantage. But Thompson had a different plan. "The Caraxians rely on their superior technology," he continued. "Their tactics are rigid, their strategies unchanged for centuries. Why change what's always worked? But that's their weakness. They don't adapt. They don't innovate, not like we do." In the months that followed, humanity prepared, but not in the way the Caraxians might have expected. Instead of building traditional defenses or amassing conventional weapons, Earth's nations united in an unprecedented collaboration of creativity and ingenuity. Scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, not to match Caraxian technology, but to subvert it. Hackers probed for weaknesses in alien communication protocols. Quantum physicists studied ways to disrupt their faster-than-light drives. And in secret facilities around the world, new weapons were developed, not based on brute force, but on understanding and exploiting the fundamental principles the Caraxians took for granted. Dr. Chen led the research into Caraxian communications. Her team discovered that the aliens' advanced quantum networks, while incredibly powerful, were vulnerable to simple electromagnetic interference, something Earth had been dealing with since the dawn of radio. It was like finding out that an advanced race could be defeated by a common cold. The Caraxian fleet arrived exactly when they said they would, punctual, if nothing else. Massive ships darkened Earth's skies, their weapon systems powered up, ready to make an example of yet another defiant world. High Commander Zextal stood on his bridge, preparing to deliver the final ultimatum. But Earth was ready. As Zextal opened his communications channel, his entire fleet suddenly lost power. Their quantum networks, the backbone of their military might, were being bombarded with precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses, courtesy of modified Earth satellites and ground-based transmitters. The Caraxians had never encountered this problem before. Their technology was too advanced to be affected by such primitive methods, or so they thought. They had never needed to develop countermeasures because no species had ever thought to try something so simple. Zextal watched in disbelief as his mighty warships drifted helplessly in orbit. Emergency systems struggled to compensate, but Earth wasn't done. Small, agile fighters launched from hidden bases, using technology that seemed cobbled together from spare parts. But these ships weren't trying to destroy the Caraxian fleet, they were boarding it. Teams of humans, trained in zero-gravity combat and equipped with tools designed specifically for Caraxian technology, breached the disabled ships. The alien crews, accustomed to fighting from behind their advanced weapons, found themselves facing humans in close combat, something they hadn't done in generations. As the first day of battle ended, Zextal faced an impossible reality. Half his fleet was under human control, their advanced technology turned against them. The other half remained powerless, their crews either captured or in retreat. And still, Earth's defenses hadn't even revealed their full capabilities. The mighty Correxian Empire had made a crucial mistake. They had judged humanity by their level of technology, never considering that true strength might lie in creativity, adaptability, and the willingness to think beyond conventional warfare. They had expected Earth to fight like every other world they'd conquered. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy unlike any they'd encountered before. And this was only the beginning. News of humanity's initial victory spread through the Correxian Empire like wildfire. High command was thrown into chaos, not just from the tactical defeat, but from the sheer impossibility of how it had happened. A pre-FTL civilization had not only resisted their invasion, but had captured half their invasion fleet, using what the Corrections considered primitive technology. High Commander Zextal faced execution for his failure. But before the Empire could carry out his sentence, he transmitted a detailed report of Earth's tactics. "They don't fight like warriors," he wrote in his final communication. "They fight like water, flowing around obstacles, seeping through cracks, drowning you before you realize you're surrounded." The Empire dispatched their legendary Second Fleet, commanded by the undefeated Admiral Kravner. This time, they wouldn't make the mistake of underestimating Earth's electromagnetic weapons. Their ships were shielded, their quantum networks hardened against interference. They arrived in force, expecting to find a human resistance still celebrating their first victory. Instead, they found nothing. Earth's orbital defenses were gone. The captured Correxian ships had vanished. Even the planetary defense systems appeared to have been dismantled. Admiral Kravner was suspicious. This had to be a trap. But after 3 days of scanning the planet, his fleet detected no significant military preparations. What they didn't know was that humanity had been busy. Dr. Chen and her team had spent every moment studying the captured Correxian technology. They didn't try to replicate it. That would have taken decades. Instead, they looked for ways to integrate it with existing human technology in ways the Corrections had never imagined. When Kravner finally launched his attack, he targeted Earth's major military installations. His ships unleashed a barrage of plasma weapons that could have reduced cities to ash. But at the crucial moment, something extraordinary happened. The plasma bolts didn't reach their targets. Instead, they were caught in invisible fields of force, redirected, and sent harmlessly into space. Humanity had discovered that Correxian weapons, while incredibly advanced, relied on predictable physical principles. By combining salvaged alien gravitational technology with Earth's existing electromagnetic infrastructure, they had created a planetary defense shield, unlike anything the Empire had encountered. It wasn't elegant or efficient by Correxian standards, but it worked. General Thompson coordinated the counterattack from a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Phase 2, he ordered, and across the planet, humanity's real defenses activated. What the Corrections had dismissed as primitive communication satellites revealed themselves to be something else entirely. Hundreds of small automated drones launched from hidden silos. They weren't armed with conventional weapons. Instead, each carried a modified version of the Corrections' own quantum communication technology. But while the Empire used these devices for communication, Earth's engineers had discovered they could be overloaded to create localized disruptions in spacetime. The drones swarmed through the Correxian fleet, creating bubbles of distorted spacetime around key ships. Inside these bubbles, time moved differently. Commands took seconds or hours to reach their destinations. Weapons fired too early or too late. The mighty Second Fleet found itself fighting an enemy they couldn't properly perceive or engage. Admiral Kravner watched in horror as his perfectly coordinated attack dissolved into chaos. His ships, unable to maintain formation in the distorted space-time fields, began colliding with each other. Their advanced targeting systems, confused by the temporal distortions, couldn't lock onto Earth's smaller vessels that now emerged from hiding. But humanity's greatest innovation came from an unexpected source. Dr. Maya Patel, a climate scientist, had been studying how the Correxian ships affected Earth's atmosphere. She discovered that their propulsion systems created unique patterns in the ionosphere. Working with military engineers, she developed a way to use Earth's own magnetic field as a weapon. By precisely manipulating the planet's electromagnetic field, they could create resonance patterns that interfered with the alien ship's drive systems. It was like turning the entire planet into a giant electromagnetic pulse generator. The Corrections, who had carefully shielded their ships against conventional EMP attacks, never considered that an entire planet could be used as a weapon. The Second Fleet's formation broke completely. Ships lost power, their crews unable to understand how a primitive world could wield such power. Admiral Kravner, his own flagship drifting helplessly in orbit, finally understood what Zextal had tried to warn them about. Humans didn't just use technology. They reimagined it, combined it in ways that defied conventional military doctrine. As the battle turned decisively in Earth's favor, the remaining Correction ships attempted to retreat. But they discovered another surprise. The humans had used their captured ships to lay gravitational mines throughout the solar system, creating zones where faster-than-light travel was impossible. The mighty Second Fleet was trapped. The Empire had sent their best commanders, their most advanced ships, and their most powerful weapons to subjugate Earth. Instead, they had given humanity the tools to defend themselves in ways the Empire had never thought possible. And as news of a second devastating defeat reached the Empire's capital, their military strategists faced an uncomfortable question. What else were these humans capable of? The Correction Empire had never faced a crisis like this. 2 fleets defeated. Thousands of their most advanced ships either captured or destroyed. Their military doctrine, refined over centuries of successful conquest, had been rendered obsolete by a species they'd considered primitive. But the Empire's response revealed just how little they understood their opponent. Emperor Vexthor himself took control of the military campaign against Earth. His solution was brutally simple: overwhelming force. The Empire would commit 40% of its total military strength to crushing this upstart world. Nearly 10,000 ships gathered at the Empire's core worlds, preparing for what they believed would be a decisive battle. But humanity had not been idle. Dr. Chen's team had made a breakthrough that would change the nature of the conflict. While studying captured Correction quantum communications technology, they discovered something extraordinary. The quantum network that linked Empire ships wasn't just a communication system. It was the foundation of their entire civilization. The Empire had built their society on the principle of absolute control. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology was connected to their central command through quantum entanglement. It made their forces incredibly coordinated, but also created a vulnerability no one had ever thought to exploit. Until now. General Thompson presented the discovery to the United Nations Security Council. "We don't need to defeat their ships," he explained. "We need to defeat their network." The plan was audacious. Instead of trying to fight the Empire's massive fleet, they would attack the very system that made the Empire function. Across Earth, research facilities were converted into quantum computing centers. The captured Correction ships became testing grounds for a new kind of weapon, not one that destroyed ships or killed soldiers, but one that could infiltrate and manipulate the quantum fabric of the Empire's network. Dr. Maya Patel's work with Earth's magnetic field had led to another critical discovery. The Empire's quantum network had a unique resonance frequency. By precisely tuning Earth's electromagnetic field, they could create a planet-sized quantum antenna. They wouldn't just communicate with the Empire's network, they could become part of it. As the Empire's massive fleet approached Earth, humanity prepared for their most ambitious defense yet. In hidden bunkers, quantum hackers stood ready. In orbit, modified satellites aimed their arrays at strategic points in space. The planet itself hummed with electromagnetic energy, ready to broadcast its signal across the quantum network. The Empire's fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their weapons primed. Emperor Vexthor, watching from his flagship, expected to see a defenseless planet, its primitive inhabitants finally cowering before the Empire's might. Instead, he witnessed something unprecedented. The quantum network that connected his ships began to change. New signals appeared, spreading through the system like a virus. Ships started receiving conflicting orders. Weapons systems activated and deactivated randomly. The perfectly coordinated fleet began to move like a creature in the throes of a seizure. Humanity had inserted itself into the Empire's command structure. They weren't just jamming communications, they were becoming the communications. Every attempt by Imperial technicians to regain control only gave Earth's quantum hackers more access. The Empire's greatest strength had become its greatest vulnerability. But the true masterstroke came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kimberly Wong, a linguistic anthropologist, had been studying the Empire's military protocols. She discovered that their rigid command structure was reflected in their language itself. By manipulating the syntax of quantum commands, Earth could do more than just disable ships. They could reshape how the Empire's military thought and acted. The results were devastating. Imperial ships began responding to Earth's commands as if they came from the Emperor himself. The quantum network, designed to ensure absolute control, now served new masters. Humanity had turned the Empire's own philosophy of control against itself. Across the galaxy, the effects rippled outward. Other conquered species, watching through their own quantum connections, saw the impossible unfold. The mighty Caraxian Empire, which had dominated space for centuries, was being undone not by superior firepower or advanced technology, but by human creativity and understanding. Emperor Vexthor, watching his fleet dissolve into chaos, finally understood the warning that had been dismissed months ago. Earth wasn't just another world to be conquered. Humans weren't just another species to be subjugated. They were something entirely new, a force that could take the unchanging principles of imperial power and transform them into tools of liberation. As the battle turned into a rout, messages began flooding in from across the Empire. Rebellions were erupting on countless worlds. The quantum network, once used to maintain imperial control, now carried the seeds of revolution. Humanity had done more than defend Earth. They had shown the galaxy that the impossible was possible. The Empire's greatest fleet hung motionless in space, its ships now responding only to Earth's commands. But this wasn't the end of the war. It was the beginning of something far more significant, a fundamental change in the balance of power throughout known space. And at the center of it all was a species that had gone from discovering aliens to reshaping galactic civilization in less than a year. The collapse of imperial authority sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Within days of humanity's successful defense, 1,000 worlds erupted in rebellion. But the Empire wasn't finished. While their main fleet lay dormant under Earth's control, imperial loyalists retreated to fortified core worlds, determined to maintain their power through any means necessary. Emperor Vexthor, humiliated but not defeated, enacted emergency protocols that severed portions of the quantum network. It was a desperate move that fractured imperial technology and communications, but it prevented Earth from gaining complete control. The galaxy was suddenly divided into isolated pockets of space, with billions of lives hanging in the balance. On Earth, military leaders and scientists grappled with an unexpected problem. They had won the battle, but victory had brought responsibility. Countless alien species, many of them former slaves of the Empire, were now looking to Earth for leadership. Humanity had become a symbol of hope, but they were about to face their greatest challenge yet. Dr. Sarah Chen discovered the first signs of the Empire's final gambit. The quantum network wasn't just shutting down. It was collapsing in a carefully orchestrated pattern. The Empire had activated ancient protocols buried deep within their technology, designed to destroy everything rather than let it fall into enemy hands. They're willing to burn down the galaxy to maintain control, General Thompson announced to an emergency session of the UN Security Council. Billions will die if those systems fail. The quantum network didn't just control military assets. It regulated everything from planetary atmospheres to food production systems on conquered worlds. But once again, Humanity's greatest strength proved to be its diversity of thought. Dr. Maya Patel noticed something in the collapse pattern that others had missed. The Empire's fail-safes were as rigid and predictable as everything else they built. Working with quantum engineers, she developed a theory that would not only stop the collapse but transform the network itself. The plan was unprecedented. Instead of trying to maintain the Empire's centralized control system, they would transform it into something new. A decentralized network where each world could operate independently while remaining connected. It was based on Earth's own internet, designed to survive catastrophic failures by routing around damage. Dr. Kimberly Wong's linguistic insights proved crucial. The Empire's quantum protocols weren't just code. They were a language that shaped reality itself. By rewriting these protocols, humanity could fundamentally change how the network functioned. But they would need help. Earth reached out to the liberated worlds, not as conquerors or saviors, but as equals. Representatives from thousands of species joined in the effort, each bringing their own unique perspectives and knowledge. The project became known as the Great Translation, an attempt to transform the language of empire into the language of cooperation. Former imperial scientists, freed from generations of rigid thinking, began to see their own technology in new ways. Species that had been enslaved for centuries shared their own scientific traditions, suppressed by the Empire, but now vital to understanding the quantum network's true potential. In orbital stations around Earth, diverse teams worked to implement the solution. They didn't have years to plan. The network was collapsing, and billions would die if they failed. But humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their ability to adapt, to collaborate, to find solutions where others saw only problems. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A young engineer from Nigeria, working with a team of alien mathematicians, discovered that the quantum network's collapse could be reversed using principles similar to how Earth's ecosystems recover from natural disasters. The network didn't need central control, it needed balance. As the fail-safes triggered across imperial space, humanity and their allies launched their counter-protocol. The effect was immediate and stunning. Instead of collapsing, the quantum network began to transform. The rigid pathways of imperial control dissolved, replaced by flexible connections that could form and reform as needed. Worlds that had been dependent on imperial technology for survival suddenly found themselves able to operate independently. The network became a tool for cooperation rather than control, allowing species to share knowledge and resources while maintaining their autonomy. Emperor Vexthor, watching from his fortress world, finally understood the true nature of his defeat. The Empire had spent centuries perfecting the art of control, building systems so complex that no single species could overcome them. But they had never considered that their technology could be transformed rather than simply conquered. The last imperial holdouts faced a choice: adapt to the new reality or fade into isolation. Most chose to adapt, realizing that humanity's victory had created something unprecedented. A galactic civilization based not on dominance, but on diversity and cooperation. As the crisis subsided, Earth found itself at the center of a new kind of interstellar community. They hadn't conquered the Empire. They had transformed it, showing the galaxy that true strength lies not in controlling others, but in working together to solve impossible problems. 5 years after the transformation of the quantum network, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Where the Corexian Empire once ruled through force and control, a new interstellar community flourished. Earth, once dismissed as a primitive backwater, had become a symbol of something revolutionary: the power of innovation without conquest. The last imperial strongholds had finally accepted the new reality, not through force but through necessity. As their isolated systems failed, they discovered that participation in the transformed network offered something the Empire never had: the freedom to evolve. Former imperial worlds found themselves learning from species they had once enslaved, discovering that diversity bred strength. Dr. Sarah Chen, now leading the Interstellar Scientific Coalition, stood before a gathering of representatives from 10,000 worlds. The meeting was being held on a former Imperial throne world, its vast chambers once reserved for displaying the Emperor's might now hosting the galaxy's greatest minds. The quantum network was never meant to be a chain, she explained, addressing the assembled beings. It was always meant to be a bridge. Her team had discovered that the Empire's original architects had glimpsed this potential centuries ago, but fear and the desire for control had led them down a darker path. The network now connected worlds in ways the Empire never imagined. Instead of transmitting orders and enforcing compliance, it shared knowledge, resources, and understanding. Each species contributed its unique perspectives, creating solutions that no single civilization could have developed alone. General Thompson, who had led Earth's military defense, found himself in an unexpected role. The strategies that had defeated the Empire were being adapted to solve humanitarian crises across the galaxy. The same creativity that had turned Imperial technology against itself now helped worlds recover from centuries of exploitation. Dr. Maya Patel's work with planetary scale systems had revolutionized terraforming. Worlds that the Empire had stripped bare were being restored using techniques that combined Earth's understanding of ecosystems with alien technologies. The galaxy was healing, not through domination, but through cooperation. But perhaps the most profound change came from Dr. Kimberly Wong's continued study of the quantum network's linguistic properties. The network wasn't just sharing information. It was allowing species to understand each other in fundamentally new ways. Civilizations that had been isolated by the Empire were rediscovering their connections to the greater galactic community. Former Emperor Vexfor, now living in exile on a remote world, requested a meeting with Earth's representatives. To everyone's surprise, he didn't seek restoration or revenge. Instead, he asked questions that revealed his own transformation. How, he wondered, did you know to look for possibilities we never saw? The answer came from an unexpected source, a young student at the newly established Galactic University on Earth. During a discussion about human history, she pointed out that Earth's greatest achievements had often come from its greatest challenges. Humanity had never been the strongest, fastest, or most technologically advanced species on their own world. They had survived and thrived because they had to adapt, to think differently, to see possibilities where others saw only obstacles. This insight sparked a new understanding across the galaxy. The Empire had sought to eliminate differences, seeing them as threats to control. Humanity had shown that differences were not weaknesses to be overcome, but strengths to be embraced. Each species brought unique perspectives. Each civilization contributed different solutions. 10 years after first contact, humanity's impact on the galaxy had become clear. They hadn't just defeated an empire, they had helped create something entirely new. The rigid hierarchies of imperial control had been replaced by flexible networks of cooperation. The quantum technology that once enforced obedience now facilitated understanding. The transformation wasn't always smooth. Some worlds struggled with their newfound independence. Others faced challenges adapting to a galaxy without imperial control. But these struggles themselves became opportunities for innovation and collaboration. Species that had once been bitter enemies found themselves working together, discovering that their differences made them stronger. As Earth celebrated the 10th anniversary of the Empire's arrival, the mood was not triumphant but hopeful. Humans had shown the galaxy that true power didn't come from controlling others or from having the most advanced technology. It came from the ability to adapt, to innovate, to see possibilities where others saw only problems. The stars that had once seemed to hold only threats now offered endless opportunities for exploration and discovery. Humanity had not just survived first contact, they had helped transform the galaxy into something better than anyone had imagined possible. And this was just the beginning. The message that had started it all. The Empire's demand for Earth's surrender was now preserved in museums across the galaxy, but it was no longer a symbol of imperial might. Instead, it served as a reminder that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't technology or military strength, but the ability to imagine a better way forward and the courage to make that vision real.